Okay, so let's unpack this stack of research you shared. It's all centered on, well, a pretty game-changing discipline.
It really is.
And if you are a founder or communication strategist, anyone really focused on building authority in this age of algorithms, you are about to look at PR completely differently.
Yeah.
We are diving deep into predictive influence.
Yeah, and it sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? But it's really just pure data science.
Right.
Predictive influence is the discipline that sits at the convergence of artificial intelligence, high-fidelity data, and earned media strategy.
And its mission isn't to chase stories.
No, not at all. Its entire mission is to forecast them, to identify which topics, which stories, which angles are about to explode well before they ever generate a single public headline.
And all the material we've gone through, which really focuses on how credibility is built and how AI is just fundamentally reshaping authority, it all points to one thing.
One core shift.
The key takeaway for this whole deep dive is this. The future of influence isn't about being louder. It's just about being earlier.
Precisely. If you distill all the research, it shows that timing has completely displaced budget. It's even displaced scale as the most valuable currency in communications today.
So being first matters more than having the biggest megaphone.
It beats being loud and expensive every single time. Being first to establish relevance, even if you do it quietly, that's what wins.
Okay, so for decades, the PR world ran on a very clear and comfortable playbook.
Totally reactive.
Completely. You waited for the news or a trend to peak, you wrote your pitch, you chased down journalists.
And you just competed like crazy for a tiny sliver of attention.
Right. But that whole structure, it worked when media cycles were slower, when human gatekeepers were the ones setting the narrative.
But that playbook is failing now. It's failing because our media environment is so accelerated, and it's largely automated by algorithms.
So the sources are saying that being late is basically fatal for your visibility.
It really is. It's the difference between arriving at the party and arriving after the party has already decided who the most important guests are.
Yeah, you might have the best thing to say, the best insight, but you're additive at that point. You're not essential.
Think about what the sources call the invisible loss. This is the authority, the revenue that you don't even know you lost.
Give us an example.
Okay, so imagine a specialized B2B climate tech company. They have the best science for, say, residential solar grids. They wait for the big government announcement on a new energy tax credit.
The reactive move.
Exactly. By the time they draft their quote, who has the press already quoted?
Someone who was probably tracking early regulatory filings or maybe shifts in consumer search for things like home energy costs.
Months before. The narrative was already decided in that quiet buildup. That tech company, they had the insight, but they arrived after the conversation had already settled on its established voices.
And that missed opportunity, that invisible loss, that's incredibly expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So let's detail the specific costs of being late. I mean, the material really pinpoints this. It's not just a feeling, it's a technical disadvantage.
It is. It's technical and it's layered. When you arrive late, one, the algorithms have already decided who the authorities are, and they're now feeding those sources.
Okay, so the system is already working against you.
Two, the journalists covering the story. They already have their trusted sources. They aren't looking for new ones mid-story. And three, the narrative already has a shape. It's crystallized, and it's very resistant to change.
Which means your brand's voice, no matter how smart it is, just feels like an afterthought.
You're fighting momentum instead of riding it. It really boils down to this. Late influence is expensive. It costs money and effort. Early influence, that just compounds all by itself.
So if being late is so costly, we really have to understand where influence actually starts.
And we talk about things going viral like it's this spontaneous, accidental event, right? A bolt of lightning.
Yeah, a total surprise.
But the sources just challenge that myth directly. Virality isn't the beginning of a story. It's usually the end result of a very long, very quiet buildup that an AI can actually detect.
And that's where predictive influence lives. In what the sources call the silent window.
That's the space.
That crucial, often ignored phase between, nothing happening and everything happening. Humans look for proof, a headline, a social media storm. But this phase is all in the shadows.
It is. And this is why we need AI, because these stories don't start in newsrooms anymore. They start as these tiny, fragmented signals that our human intuition just filters out completely.
So where do they originate? What are some of those signals that we're missing?
One of the most critical is search behavior. And it's not just volume. It's about detecting these unusual shifts in search intent.
What did that look like?
Well, for example, a sudden spike in really detailed, nuanced questions. You see similar phrasing repeated across different platforms by a small but super engaged audience.
So that suggests an information need that the media isn't filling yet.
Exactly. That gap is the opening. The demand for answers is building, but the supply of authority hasn't arrived.
That feels like a tactical alert for any strategist listening.
It absolutely is. And the AI also tracks journalist behavior that we can't see. It's not about what they publish, but what they're doing before they publish.
Like what?
Things like heavy bookmarking of niche academic papers or internally testing headlines or even just quietly researching a topic cluster without actually committing to an article yet. They're gathering the pieces.
And then there are the algorithms themselves. They're also an early indicator.
A huge one. They are constantly testing content with small audiences to measure engagement, basically figuring out if a topic has the legs to go mainstream.
So by the time something feels like it's everywhere to us,
The underlying systems have already calculated that critical mass days, maybe weeks ago. So the brands that seem lucky, the ones who are always the go-to experts,
they weren't lucky.
not at all. They were using this predictive positioning to stand exactly where the data showed the story was about to arrive. They were there to meet the moment, not chase it.
Okay, so this is where we have to contrast the human approach versus the AI approach. Humans, we wait for certainty, right? We want that social proof.
We do. But the AI looks for something much less concrete. It's looking for acceleration. It's looking for patterns.
So we look for the peak. AI looks for the inflection point.
Precisely. It doesn't wait for proof. It just watches for that sudden spike that signals the direction before the destination is even visible. And the scale is just vast.
And the data signals themselves are fascinating. I mean, we're not talking about vanity metrics. What kind of massive signals are these AI models analyzing?
The AI is monitoring multiple streams at once. It's analyzing media publishing patterns, so not just volume, but the specific type of publications that are starting to talk about similar themes. It's tracking granular journalist topic clusters, which groups of reporters are moving toward the same subject.
And you mentioned social velocity earlier. Can you break that down for a strategist? What is the AI actually measuring?
Right, so social velocity isn't raw volume, it's the rate of acceleration. The AI is looking for that sudden compound growth in really valuable metrics like shares, saves, time on page, 1,000 comments over a month. That's just noise. 50 comments in 2 hours on a niche topic. That's velocity.
That sudden spike tells the AI that the topic is gaining momentum faster than the baseline.
Yes. It shows direction before the peak volume ever hits. The AI is identifying the topic's structural integrity, not just its popularity.
But raw data doesn't mean anything to a brand, right? They need a story. How does the AI turn all these signals into an actual actionable opportunity?
It connects the technical dots to the narrative gaps.
Yeah.
The AI maps all these signals against what already exists in the media, and it identifies exactly where the informational vacuums are.
Where the public has questions, but there are no good answers.
Exactly. And then it maps which specific angles journalists are about to need to fill out their stories. It essentially reverse engineers the story before it's even written.
That allows a brand to align its messaging perfectly.
Not just with what's popular, but with what the algorithms actually prefer. Highly specific, authoritative content that fills a measurable knowledge gap.
So the core principle here seems to be that the most powerful stories aren't just invented in a meeting.
No, they are discovered early through data and then positioned intentionally by the brand to become the definitive answer.
Okay, let's pivot to a crucial and maybe a little uncomfortable truth that this material lays out. The sources are so clear that influence today is no longer just about convincing people.
It's equally, if not more, about training systems.
You mean training search engines, AI assistants?
The recommendation feeds the entire knowledge graph infrastructure that governs how we find information. You are targeting a completely new audience, the machine.
Which puts a whole new emphasis on earned media. It's not just a nice clip to show the CEO anymore. It's a data input.
That's the concept of machine-readable credibility. When a credible publication covers you, it's not just a signal to humans. It's rich data feeding these systems.
So the content needs to be structured in a way that an AI can immediately understand your expertise.
Yes, and link it to other verified sources and slot you into the right topic cluster. You're feeding those systems foundational data before they finalize their understanding of who matters on a new topic.
And that explains the idea of compounding authority so perfectly. Early coverage builds this long-term authority because it gets embedded into the infrastructure of discovery itself.
Exactly. The algorithms are built to reward brands that show consistency and anticipation. So when a story starts, that early acceleration we talked about, the algorithms are silently asking a series of critical questions.
And these questions determine who gets the authority bump.
They do.
So what are those silent questions that strategists need to be answering before a story breaks?
They're technical checks. First, who has a history of speaking about this topic before it was mainstream?
Okay, so history matters.
2, who already has high-quality, credible mentions linked to this emerging topic? 3, who feels consistent and prepared, not reactive and opportunistic?
And I'm guessing the last one is about readiness.
4, does this source appear ready to be the immediate defining voice? If you're reactive, the answer to all of those is someone else.
But if you've used predictive influence, the answer is, unequivocally, your brand.
Because you quietly prepared and you supplied that machine-readable credibility when the signals were just whispers. And this is the ruthless part.
Go on.
Once those systems assign that early authority, they are engineered for stability. They rarely change their minds. Late entries struggle because the digital infrastructure has already decided who the authority is.
The whole deep dive really points to this profound strategic shift then. We're moving away from chasing, accidental virality.
Which is just a recipe for inconsistency and wasted money.
And moving toward predictive positioning, which creates intentional, sustainable visibility.
The new metric isn't attention. Attention is fleeting. The new metric is authority, which compounds silently and lasts long after a trend fades.
So we have to change the questions we're asking inside our companies.
Completely.
So instead of that chaotic, reactive question, how do we go viral with this?
Which is a total shot in the dark.
The smarter question, based on this material, is what story is about to matter to our audience? What emerging narrative is forming right now that we should already be positioned to answer?
That single question changes your entire operation. Your PR team moves from a reactive, catch-up posture to a proactive investment posture.
It's required listening for any leader trying to navigate this world where AI curates attention and algorithms decide who has authority.
It's the difference between fighting a forest fire after it's already raging
And quietly setting up the fire break.
Yeah.
And clearing the brush before the wind even picks up. You manage the environment before it manages you.
Yeah. This deep dive really shows that predictive influence isn't about guessing the future with a crystal ball.
No, not at all.
It's about recognizing the future while it's still quiet. When the signals are fragmented, but the pattern is already crystal clear to an AI that can process data on a scale that's just impossible for us.
And that brings us to the final provocative thought from all this material we've covered. What if genuine lasting influence wasn't about reacting faster or spending more money or shouting louder than everyone else? What if it was simply about listening earlier?
What if your brand just quietly stood where attention was inevitably about to arrive, building that preparation, that machine-readable credibility, instead of all the public noise and late-stage scrambling?
The sources make an overwhelming case.
They really do. The future doesn't reward the loudest voices. It overwhelmingly rewards the earliest clarity.